What's the hardest part of shooting a car?
Finding a spot to shoot that nobody has shot at.
Alright. Welcome to another episode of Shooting Cars. We got Alex's G35 right here. We have Michael's monster truck of a G35 right there. And in this episode, I'm going to be taking you on a full shoot. We're going to be doing Alex's car. We're going to do detail shots, full shot, rolling shot, interior shot, trunk shot, and do you want an under the hood shot, or is yours not?
No, mine's not even.
Alright, so stay tuned, and if you love G35s, leave a comment below, and if you hate automatic G35s, definitely leave a comment. So in the case of this shoot, we met up before getting to the location, so typically we'll get gas or detail the car a little bit before heading out. Going to the first location where we're going to shoot shots of the car, some stationary shots, but on the way there we're going to make use of our time and shoot some rollers. So I have my polarizer on, I have vibration control on my camera, we have Alex's G35, the white one behind us. So on the highway on the way there, I'm going to try to just get some shots without any other cars. As you can see here, I took photos of just the wall outside, and this was to set my exposure so that when the car pulled up, we would be ready to shoot. And I also changed my autofocus settings to continuous and changed my camera to a high burst mode. So as you can see, I went through and took a couple different exposures before we actually had Alex come up with his car so that I could start shooting the rollers. Now there's a lot of cars, so it's going to be hard to shoot rollers, but these came out all right. Already got 22 shots. It's been maybe like, what, 3 minutes on the highway? That's pretty quick. So make sure you have your polarizer set and make sure that the headlights look sharp in the photos. Then you're good. Right here, what I want you to notice is how I am communicating with Alex, who's driving his G35 there. So at this point, we had gotten some nice rolling shots of the front of the car, and since this was a full shoot, I want to, of course, capture the back as well. So you'll see me kind of wave him by and then point at the back to let him know that I want to shoot the back of the car. Now, unfortunately, at this point on the highway, there were a lot of cars, which I could clone out in Photoshop, but the lighting and the car condition wasn't the best, so we actually went out after the location and shot more rollers, and I went specifically for the rear at that point. Make sure you look through your shots and bring extra batteries so that this doesn't kill your camera, but you want to make sure that you check your rollers, make sure they look good, zoom in, take a peek, because you don't want to go home thinking that you got cool rollers for your client, and then you're like, we got like one shot that's kind of cool. So make sure you double check your work on location, because then you can either shoot more rollers or you can go out specifically to shoot rollers later on, or you can shoot more on the way back from the shoot. So make sure that you have everything done. So rollers are done. Now we found this really cool barn location that's kind of tore down in the back and has just a bunch of grungy stuff inside of it. And this location was found through a friend on Instagram. So episode 4 of Shooting Cars goes all about how to find locations using social media nearby. Thankfully, we had an awesome friend who let us know of this location, so we came in and started shooting. To make the car look even lower, instead of shooting from down low, I'm going to be shooting from up a little bit higher like that, so that you don't see any gap. I mean, not that there is any, but you want the car to look nice and low. So the camera's right here. So from here, the car looks lower. Here, the car looks a little bit taller. So shoot it right now. So instead of just shooting the front, I want to use this edge right here. Yeah, I'll make sure you're good. So we're going to put the car that way. One thing about shooting in a location like this is that you really don't want to get a flat tire, so at this point you can see me kicking out any dirt or possible nails so that we keep the car safe and protected. Yeah, you guys can see the shot. Got a little bit of the wall. If we really zoom out, we'll get both walls. For this shot, I really want to incorporate the foreground and background, and I decided to strobe the car to add a little bit more light, but actually with shooting raw, I was able to pull everything from one kind of base exposure file using Photoshop. For the next shot, we left the car in the same spot and shot Alex's new wheel and tire setup so that you can see how low the car is with the new bag system, and you can see I exposed for the car and just used the flash to get a little bit more detail of those dark colored rims. In this shot, you can see that recycling bin in the background, so I changed my angle a bit so that I wouldn't have to clone that out later in Photoshop. And then I took a couple of other shots so that Alex would have options when choosing which angle he wants to show off his wheel and tire combo best. Sometimes on a shoot, you'll have opportunities that literally just present themselves. So in this case, there was an old tire just laying around, so I decided to shoot through it and get a photo of Alex's wheel and tire setup through that. This shot turned out a little different than most of my photos, and there was two parts to this challenge. One was getting the focus on the wheel to be perfect, because my camera kept wanting to autofocus on the tire, so make sure for that. And the other was getting that LED side marker perfectly in the wheel. So this shot literally lined up perfectly, and I'm very thankful for that. So there's all these reflections right here. So what I'm going to have Alex do is hold this reflector right here. Leaving the car in the same place for yet another shot, I want to get a detail shot of these headlights, and there were a ton of reflections as you can see here. So what I did was I handed Alex my 5-in-1 reflector with the black side, and this cut a lot of the reflections as you can see here. Now if you don't have a reflector, I would recommend picking one up. It's only $20 for a 5-in-1. The Amazon link is down below, but if you want to save 15 bucks, you can get a black piece of foam core, very similar to the white piece that we've used in previous episodes, and you can just flip that, and this can cut a lot of reflections. So this helps a ton for detail shots where you don't want everything to be reflecting in there and where a polarizer won't necessarily take everything out. We then moved the car into the back corner of the barn, and as you can see here, the shadows in the back looked really cool, and I really wanted to get the car in the shade and those shadow lines in the back. But what happened over the course of literally 2 minutes of moving the car, the clouds rolled over and everything went away. So this was cool because it gave a nice even light, but then what happened is the clouds went away and we had a very harsh shadow on the car directly. So what we did in that case was we did some detail shots of the rear wheels, we practiced strobing a little bit, and then when the clouds rolled over again, I was able to get that full shot that you see right here. So sometimes you just have to wait it out with the light or take advantage of certain light situations and just shoot some detail shots. So now we have rolling shots. We have a full body shot in the larger room. We have one full body shot here, maybe two. We have the detail shot of the headlights. We have the detail shot of the front rim, the rear rim, in two different spots, and now we're going to do the interior. So we're going to do the trunk because he's got the tanks in the back for the airlift system, and then we're going to do the steering wheel because it's a carbon steering wheel, right? And then we are done with the shoots. So that's kind of how it goes. It's been like an hour probably since we got here, hour and a half since we started, and that's going to get us like less than 10 shots. So that's kind of what to expect, and then the editing starts, and that's going to take like another couple hours, but hopefully the photos turn out sick. When it came to the interior shot, the most important part of this was step one, which I talked about in episode 1 of shooting cars, and that was cleaning as much as we could in the actual car. So there was this lanyard hanging down from the rear view mirror, which would have been a total pain in the ass to clone out. So I had Alex remove that and just tuck it over the top of the rear view mirror. And as far as the lighting went for this shot, all we did was use the LED modeling light on my strobe to add a little bit of detail into that carbon fiber weave on the steering wheel, get it to pop a little bit on the buttons and the Infinity logo, and it was pretty simple. Thankfully, it was a nice cloudy day, so all the light was even throughout the rest of the car, and I didn't need to use the whiteboard or reflector to add any shadows or to brighten anything up. So just that little bit of light was great. Now when it came to the trunk shot, that was really difficult because there's so many reflective surfaces in there, and I had to light the carpet and I had to expose for the exterior of the car. So that was quite a whirlwind, and honestly I'm not very happy with that shot, so I may ask Alex to come over so I can reshoot that, because since that's a very close-up detail shot, I could literally shoot it in my driveway and it wouldn't be a big deal. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video so far. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and follow me on Instagram at @carphotographer. Now I'm going to move into Photoshop and show you a little bit of the editing process. All the photos that were done in Lightroom, I've shared all those secrets already. You guys know exactly how to replicate those looks, and so there's only a couple of shots here that I put into Photoshop and put a lot of time into, especially that full body. So let's hop into Photoshop right now. Now we are in Photoshop, and there were only 3 files that I actually brought into Photoshop CC for this whole shoot. Everything else was done in Lightroom, and you guys know how to do most of that stuff from previous episodes of shooting cars. But I just wanted to show you really quickly the trunk shot, so you can see that this is a blend of 2 different exposures. So this one had a very strong reflection on the kind of rose gold colored main canister, I guess, in the trunk. And so this is a blend of 2 different exposures to handle those reflections. And then this full trunk shot was for the polarized rear window, and then a lot of light bits just kind of added into the trunk, as you can see, without having a super harsh reflection. Because if I turn this layer mask off, you'll see that the flash caused a very harsh reflection, and this light was a little bit too hard for my liking. Now, the main edit in this whole set was this shot right here, and as you can see, this had a lot of cleanup done right there. And so to make the cleanup easier, actually, what I did was I had Alex use my reflector kind of just as a fan, and he blew a lot of the dirt away, but between the two shots, a good amount of it came back in because there's a lot of wind in this barn, which wasn't a huge deal. It just took longer to clone out. So let me kind of walk you through real quick this whole file. So you can see the two polarized shots put together right here, and there's a whole episode on that. And then there were quite a few adjustments here. So you can see that I brightened the rims. This is using a curves layer. Then I made the front tire darker, and I'm going to zoom in just so you can see that. So the tire was a little bit dirty, and it was more of a brown color. So what I did was I used a hue saturation layer to remove the saturation and darken the tire a little bit. You can see that makes the look a lot cleaner. Then I did the same on the rear tire. So you can see that when I turn this layer on and off, it just darkens the tire up a little bit more contrast. Then I took the ground and I darkened it using a curves layer. And so I for everything here, you have to hand select using either the pen tool or the lasso tool. So I selected the wheels individually, selected the tires individually, and the ground, and that's why this takes so long to edit. Then I removed some of the saturation in the ground, and for that I copied the layer mask over from the curves layer. And then for the background, you can see I darkened it and added a little bit of contrast. So once all this was done, I just went in and cleaned up the image using our patch tool that we talked about in episode 4 of Shooting Cars. And then I added a brightness and contrast layer. So you can see that all these adjustments make quite a difference here. Let me turn off that cleanup layer. So that's with all the adjustments and then cleaning it up. So that was the main edit in this shoot. And of course, if I really wanted, I can go in, I could clean this window reflection up, but I think it adds to it because Alex and I were there at the shoot, as well as Michael, the legend, and we added, but we know that these reflections are real, so I decided to leave them in. But of course, if you want to, you could use the patch tools to clean that up. So now that all of the photos are done, and there were 15 final shots from this shoot after about 3 hours of shooting and 4 more hours of editing, and I've uploaded them to my proofing website for Alex to be able to view the images and favorite them, and also download and share with his friends. So he can see this on his iPhone, on his iPad, on his computer. He could text it to people. He can download it from there and share it to Instagram. And so now the shoot is entirely done. So that was the organization, the finding the location, shooting, editing, uploading for proofing. Now Alex and I have the photos. They're complete. And that is the entire shoot all in one. I hope you learned a ton. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot from it. Thank you for sticking around for 20 episodes of Shooting Cars. There are even more on the way. I appreciate all the support, all the messages on Instagram to @acarphotographer. I will see you next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to leave a comment below, and I will try my best to help you. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.